Welcome back everyone to the European LCS, and right now it's time for SK Gaming to take on Gambit in a battle for first place. Now, this is the final final time that these teams will meet this split, with a head-to-head currently 2-1 in favor of the Russians. And with both teams at the top end of the table, it's going to be an important clash for both sides. Not only does the winner take command of first place, but they will also further the distance between that three-way tie in third. Additionally, if SK can win here, it ties a head-to-head with Gambit, which will force a tiebreaker game if they're still in a dead heat at the end of the split. And we know that we love tiebreakers here in Europe.
However, a win for Gambit would give them the edge in the head-to-head and would avoid the need for a tiebreaker, actually. And the last time these two teams met each other, we had Jesiz on Z for the first time, and we had Diamondprox playing an absolutely perfect game as Lee Sin. Everything SK did in the early game was countered by Diamond, and Gambit didn't manage to keep this slight lead in gold the entire time. Jesiz, he did pick up a few kills in the early game onto Eduard, but once it got to teamfights, he had no impact. And that's what Gambit took full advantage of it. And Gambit again, took the Baron, killed SK Gaming, killed all 4 members here, and then they just destroyed the Nexus.
Well, SK Gaming climbed up the table during last Super Week and eventually working their way into that first place. But even last week was a little bit uneven for them.
Yeah, SK Gaming, they went 1-1 last week, and while they remain one of our strongest teams in Europe, their performance against Rocket looked very shaky. We had Jankos who dominated the early game on Elise, and after this 3v3 fight down in the bot lane where SK gave up all 3 easy kills, things really started to look very bad for them. And Rocket, they just kept building up the advantage, and they finished the game at 25 minutes and 54 seconds with a 17,500 gold lead. But it was the first time we have seen SK Gaming losing that hard in many, many weeks. So for me at least, there's no reason to panic yet. But when talking about SK Gaming, we have to mention Svenskeren. He's been one of the top junglers in the LCS this season, with a lot of games where he's putting on all the early pressure in the early game. And we've seen him dominate on champions like Elise, Evelynn and Pantheon. But I was honestly not impressed by his Kha'Zix last week against Rocket, and it was the first time in a long time where Svenskeren, he didn't really have any impact on the early game, and it really seemed to hurt SK Gaming. So we need to see if teams now will focus on shutting down Svenskeren, and how SK Gaming then will react, and if someone else can step up in the early game.
Last week, Gambit picked up a win over last place Millennium, but lost to Alliance, who are on a bit of a rampage, we have to say as well. This week definitely needs to be more stable for Gambit.
Yeah, last week is actually something I would call a standard week for Gambit, because they played a poor game against Alliance, but then they completely destroyed Millennium the next day. And in general, Gambit has been very inconsistent. But as long as they remain in the top of the table, then Gambit, they can be confident and still try out new things, because we can always expect them to become more consistent once the playoff actually hits and really start to show how strong they are as a team. And Gambit, talking about them as a team, they really focus on objectives. They are the second best team in Europe when it comes to Dragons with a total of 57. And they are the best team on blue side when it comes to Dragons with 38. But for some reason, they're actually the worst team on red side with only 19. However, the laning phase, it can be weak, which really shows when looking at first bloods giving up. They are the worst team in Europe with 17 first bloods given to the other team in only 22 games. And it's one of the things they really need to fix before the playoffs.
Well, one thing's for sure there, that Eduard is looking good today. Just checking on his phone, making sure that he is in fact looking absolutely brilliant for that one.
I agree. He's a beautiful man.
And we all know that Deficio does in fact do that as well.
No.
Pretty much before every time we do... Come on,
I wake up like this.
You wake up like that. That's exactly what I thought. But before we get into this matchup, let's take a look at what both teams are thinking before we get into the game.
We have trouble playing against Gambit for some reason, but not really against any other team.
SK is like a really strong team. It's like hard to understand what they want to do or what they're just doing in the game normally.
The games we lost against Gambit before were when we did really bad picks, I feel.
In every LCS, we lose so much game for really stupid play with victory in our hands.
Gambit are like probably the most experienced team, and it's part of their strength, I think, that they're smart in champ select.
I know Freddy play Renekton, but it's not so much difficult for me. I'm really afraid not too much tanky champion. I'm afraid AP champion who can scale late more than my champion.
I think it makes more of a difference if you're like prepared and you predict what they're gonna pick, and you get what you want, then it's almost a win in Champ Select already.
Some interesting discussions there. Darien in particular saying he's not scared of those tanky champions. It's the AP champions that he's actually scared of.
Potential Rice ban?
Maybe. We'll have to see about that one. First of all, though, before we get to Champions Select, we're going to check out the starting lineups. On the blue side for SK Gaming, they are Freddy in the top lane, Svenskeren in the jungle, Jesiz in the mid lane, CandyPanda the AD carry, and nRated the support.
On the red side, we have Gambit Gaming. Of course, we have the Swag Lord Darien in the top lane. We have Diamond in the jungle. Alex is the mid laner. Genja on AD carry. And of course, the good-looking Eduard on support.
And two players that are going to be a key to victory for their respective teams are SK's Jesiz and Gambit's Aleksei in the mid lane.
Yeah, Jesiz and Alex are two very different mid laners when it comes to playstyle and champion pool. We have Jesiz, who prefers to play the long-range poke champions like Ziggs and Nidalee, while Alex, he loves to play assassins like Kha'Zix and Leblanc. And the only champion they actually share is Lulu, which could be a ban or maybe even the first pick in the game. And Jesiz, he needs to make sure he can stop Alex from roaming around the map. And Alex, on the other hand, he needs to make sure Jesiz is not getting all the needed for him to become a big threat in teamfights with his poke champions. Svenskeren normally puts a lot of focus on the top lane and the bot lane, so we might actually see Jesiz being all alone in this mid lane against both Alex and Diamond.
So as we move towards Champions Select there, we've heard from the two top laners in this one. Darien's not scared of tanks, he's scared of AP champions. Freddy, on the other hand, you know, he is a player that loves to play those tanky champions. Yes. But will he have changed in these weeks where, you know, the likes of Ryze are more viable in that top lane?
I could definitely see him pick up Ryze as a champion for him. I mean, Ryze itself is not a hard champion to play. You need to learn the matchups, of course, but as long as you have him ready, you have this threat of this big AP scaling into late game champion, like Darien said he didn't want to play against. So I could see Ryze being a potential ban. Of course, Lee Sin for me, now with the changes to Lee's, he's one of the absolute top junglers, if not the top jungler, so I can see it being banned away against the likes of Diamond. And then of course Evelyn, Svenskeren played it, Kha'Zix, both junglers have played it before, could also be banned towards it. I actually feel like it's worth banning out junglers now, because you have these top three with Evelyn, Kha'Zix and Lee Sin that you can take away. Depending of course of how people feel about Elise. There's a lot of different opinions. I've asked a lot of players here. We have some people some players saying she's still good, and we have a lot of players saying she's completely awful at the moment.
Which is really, really interesting that there's no set kind of standard right now for Elise and how strong she is. And I'm sure that brings a little bit of inner turmoil to some teams as well, who say, okay, they've got a good Elise player, but we don't think Elise is strong anymore. Do we leave her open because we're not going to pick her because we don't think she's strong anymore? And if you lose that game, well, you're not going to leave Elise open again.
It's just the whole balance. Pro players in general have a tendency to overreact a little bit when it comes to changes and nerfs. We had people saying, we had some people saying that Kayle would be useless after the nerfs to her Q. The ratio got down to 0.6. Yet people still play her. She's still very strong. So it's just about someone continue to play her, show how good the champion still is, maybe show a new item build or new route if it's a jungler, and then it actually works again. So we just need to see here who's going to bring out the Elise and what can it actually do with it.
Who, if anyone, will do that one. And we mentioned it a little bit in game number one, but we could probably say it a little bit more for this one. Kassadin is, of course, disabled this week, so that doesn't need to be banned away. Something that you might definitely think about banning against someone like Aleksei or even against Jesiz, I think we could say as well.
Yeah, Kassadin would have been a ban this game, of course, but I actually love the fact that Evelyn is the first ban for SK. Don't want to deal with the early pressure from Diamond. We saw amazing in the last game. It is so annoying playing against Evelyn in the early game.
So more bans coming through. Ziggs was taken away by Gambit. That means that Jesiz not going to be on that one. And Lulu taken out as well. Aleksei was one of the first to be playing that Lulu here in the European LCS. Certainly loves the champion at this stage.
And there's a good reason to love it, because Lulu brings everything to the table. High mobility, disengage, you have good damage, and of course you are a lane bully. So I like the ban. And also with Ziggs being banned away from Jesiz, he knew if Alex would have picked the Lulu, he would have been in issues, because Ziggs would have been the pick for him to try and counter it. Interesting
second ban here though by Gambit, actually taking Annie out of the mix, stopping nRated, going in for that one. What do we think to that ban?
Well, nRated have been very good on Annie. He's been very good at doing engages. He's obviously one of the shot callers from SK, but Annie did have a few changes. Here in the 4.4 now you have less damage early on, like your base damage on both Q and W have been reduced. The AP scaling though has been increased, so mid lane Annie is actually better, but support wise you have a little bit less damage, skill better into the late game if you do build some AP though.
And the funny thing is that nRated's not been playing that much Annie recently. In fact, the last time that he played it, we finished 3-3-3 against Gambit in the game that they lost. However, back onto the bans because we have Kha'Zix taken away, another very solid ban here, along with Lee Sin. So a lot of jungle bans coming out.
And in 4.3 you would see an instant lock Elise now with pretty much all the top junglers being banned away. We have of course Pantheon, we have Wukong still open if SK Gaming wants to play them. Svenskeren played them in the past, but let's see if he wants this Elise or if they have something else in mind. Of course Renekton is open as an option, and ooh, Leblanc on to Jesiz. I'm not sure how I feel about it because in the past, when he's been playing Leblanc, he's not been doing too well. Actually, I believe he's having 2 losses on it already.
Yeah, played 2 games with LeBlanc, lost both of those games actually. The last one against Rockout 0-3-0 and against Super Hot Crew earlier on in the season. So we'll see if Jesiz can break out of that mold and the 100% win-loss that he has so far with LeBlanc. The question now is, what are Gambit going to be going for? Thresh, a champion which we did see last week for Gambit, for Eduard against Millennium. 4-18 he finished with that one, pulled off some spectacular hooks.
And let's see here if Gambit actually wants to lock in Renekton for Darien up in the top lane with the potential counterpick in Ryze by SK. Once again, it's the thing Darien was talking about. He doesn't want to deal with these AP, very strong scaling into the late game like Ryze, so we can actually see him delay the top lane pick, try and see if Freddy wants to lock in the Renekton instead, and they know there's no Ryze onto him. And with both Fresh and of course Lucian locked in, we have a very strong early bot lane here for Gambit.
So what will SK be picking up on their second round of picks? Jinx, a champion that they're currently hovering over, and it's hard to tell with CandyPanda really because he is a player that really doesn't, it seems like he doesn't really mind where he goes. He's played your standards, your Lucian, your Caitlyn, he's brought out Ezreal, he's played games with Vayne, so really could end up going anywhere. There is the Vel'Koz coming in. Most likely, well, it is going to be LeBlanc in there. So support Vel'Koz the first time. I was actually talking to nRated earlier and he kind of told me that he was going to go this path. And I'm always wary when players say that before the game that they're going to play. But this is going to be real interesting. talk us through Vel'Koz and why you think, you said it earlier, that he fits better into a support role.
I wouldn't say he fits just better than mid lane, but at least there's an option for him to be a good support because he's having some very good poke early on. The base damage is good. The mana costs are fairly low, so you don't actually need these heavy mana items to be able to just spam away your abilities. Of course, you provide slow, you have your knock-up on your E as well, so you provide some CC. The only issue with him for me is the fact you don't have any engage on him. People aren't going to stand and wait for your stun or your knock-up to hit onto them, so it's going to be hard for you to start fights, but the disengage potential you have. Popping your ultimate when someone engages onto your team, you have a big laser in their face, and of course with the slows you have and everything you can put down, it's hard to engage onto Vel'Koz.
The problem is they're going to be squishy if Eduard is on form landing those hooks.
Yeah,
and
then he's going to die.
And Lucian's got the dash away to get out of your knockup. Very interested to see how this one all works out, but Gambit are picking further on here as they take Orianna for Aleksei in the mid lane and Aatrox for Darien up top.
So they have Aatrox jumping in, getting the ball from Alex, and then they can start the fights, and that's actually where both Jinx and Vel'Koz could be in trouble because they don't have any mobility. So if Aatrox jumps into the face with the ball from Alex, they have to flash away, otherwise the shockwave can land, knock them together, and Gambit can just instantly blow them up.
And the Aatrox was played last by Darien against Alliance, but just before that against SK actually in the top lane. 2-2-13 he ended with that one. We're seeing some more interesting picks coming out here. Fiddlesticks for the jungle for Svenskeren and the Renekton for Freddy up top.
So I actually like this Fiddlestick here for Svenskeren. Yes, there were fear changes, so now targets run away from you instead of just running randomly around. So with Fiddlesticks here, if you can manage to get to level 6 without anything happening, your ganks are so strong. However, if you get shot down early on, you will be in trouble, and also your ultimate is having a very long cooldown. So if you miss your first gank, if you fail it by any chance at level 6, there's quite a while before you can do it again. So he's having some issues, but as a champion he's very, very strong if he gets the farm, if he gets a good early game going. And once he's having the Sonias, pop into the middle of a team fight, pop your Sonias, so much damage you can do to everyone around you.
So it's about the jungle now here for Gambit and actually locking in the Xin Zhao here for Diamond.
So clear indication that none of these teams like Elise. She was open, nobody picks her here. Fiddlesticks against Zhao. If Zhao catches out Fiddlesticks early on, he will destroy him. Also because he's having the knock-up to interrupt the drain from Svenskeren. And it's going to be very hard for Svenskeren to do anything in these fights if Diamond is there. So that's obviously the idea behind this pick. And then also, he can do the same as Aatrox. Get the ball from Alex onto him and let him drop into the face of Jinx and Vel'Koz. Pop the ultimate from Alex, pull them together and just instantly blow them up. So Gambit's setup here is really meant to just destroy SK Gaming's backline if they get the chance. I think Genja just staying in the backline against Freddy 1v1. But again, the SK side is actually somewhat the same. You have Jesiz, Fiddlesticks and Renekton who can dash towards or jump in towards your backline and just instantly destroy either Alex or Genja here. So we have two teams who just want to, as soon as the fight starts, blow each other up.
And Vel'Koz who can stand all the way at the back and just laser all the way through the team themselves. So let's check in and see who you guys think have the advantage in this game. With 71% of the vote, you believe that Gambit are going to break the tie here and take first place for themselves. That is a big number if you ask me, considering where these two teams are right now.
And we always have to remember with Gambit, we're not really sure which team is showing up. This is against SK Gaming, however,
True.
so this is the time for them to really show up and prove they are the best team in Europe. So, but with the votings, I want to be boring and say 50-50 because both teams are so good, so I'm going to keep it at 50-50.
50-50. Pretty much as boring as you can get when it comes to a vote like that. Sitting on the fence like a boss. But we have some interesting picks coming out from this one. I have to talk about level 1 because we've only really seen Millennium being a team up until now in the LCS doing anything at level 1. We saw it in that last game with the changes that we're getting here on 4.4. Do you think we're going to see anything here as we go live with SK versus Gambit?
Well, Alex can check now with his ball, of course, and you have some blind hooks from Eduard to start something. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gambit as a team go in, try a hook from Eduard into whatever bush they decide to pick, and then see if they can catch someone out from SK, because on their side, they don't really have anything to check with, except for maybe the ball or the Q from Vel'Koz shooting in to see if they hit someone.
So here we go then, teams.
And of course, Jinx can all shoot a sap in if she starts with it.
Oh, Q actually landing there for nRated. Nice little start for him. Interesting to note there. You know, if you actually, we said it already, he's all about skill shots.
Yeah.
The fact is that if you land your skill shots properly, you've actually got 2 skills that can get you gold, really, there from that spell thief's edge right at the start.
And most important, you have a lot of damage. So if you manage to land these things together with Jinx at level 6, your ultimate, a big laser in their face, and then the rocket from Jinx, that is so much damage you can pile onto someone like Eduard or Genja if they can manage to catch them first with the knock-up, and then the traps coming in from Jinx, you can lock them down for quite some time and just burst them down. So I like this combo here with both Jinx and Vel'Koz, and we need to see if they can get to level 6 where they can really burst out all the damage.
So excited to see how this one all works out. Right now we've got the line defense from both teams. Svenskeren has already backed away towards his blue buff for the start, running that pirate Fiddlesticks. Diamond doing similar thing here, all the way back on his red buff here from the start. Looks like we're going to be getting a more tame start than what we saw in the first game of the week.
And a little thing to note, we actually have cleanse onto Alex. So if he gets feared by Svenskeren, he can pop the cleanse. Chains, of course, from Jesiz. Stun from Freddy here, he can cleanse out of them. And I like the pickup. It's a bit of an issue for him though, because it's going to make him weaker in lane, but he needs to take it to avoid all the CC from SK, because they want to engage onto someone like him, lock him up and just explode.
And you have to say his kill potential onto someone like Leblanc is not going to be massively high anyway, so would that ignite be a better choice? Well, we're going to find out, aren't we? We'll see how Aleksei does in this one. We are going to see, though, down on the bottom that these duos face up. Vel'Koz Jinx against Lucian Thresh. Who's got the advantage in this lane?
Well, we need to, of course, see if nRated can land his skill shots. As soon as his Q goes to max range here, it's going to split up into 2, and that's where if he can hit multiple members, or at least one member every time, he's getting some good poke, and his mana is not an issue, because Q, very low mana cost early on here. So look at him, actually almost hitting both Eduard and Genja. And with CandyPanda putting a lot of damage onto Genja, SK is starting out really well.
Very interested in this one again. Eduard taking some of that poke, and there is level 2 coming in for SK Gaming, getting that one just before Gambit, who have just hit that point themselves here. So actually no push through, as we see the W being thrown out there in the end by nRated. So interesting bottom lane. Interesting to see how these junglers do as well. Physics and Zhao too that we've not seen for a while.
And nRated needs to be careful here. He actually moved out to more or less bait a ward in this river because Diamond actually pinged it. He wanted to go down there, so nRated he moved out and then he moved backwards because Diamond, he actually expected him to ward even though the ward is on cooldown. That's why he backed away from the bot lane. But he's still staying around here. Let's see if he wants to try something. There is no ward from SK Gaming.
You know what, this top lane, Darien openly saying in that video, I'm not scared of these tanky champions. He knows that Freddy likes to play his Renekton. That's exactly what Freddy's got his hands on in this game as well. We can see that Darien already taking a lot of bully from, well, probably the best early lane bully you have in that top lane.
Yeah, Freddy is gonna have all the control in the lane, constantly push him down. He needs to be careful though. If Diamond comes up with Zhao, they have a lot of CC to lock him down and a lot of damage, so he needs to be careful when pushing up here. Also because Svenskeren, he needs level 6 before he can actually help.
Oh, a little bit of a pause there as Svenskeren was just in there, and it looks to be something with Freddy at this point, and certainly everything needs to be fine in this one. This is a top of the table clash, let's not forget. Probably the reason why as well the start to it was so timid. If you make a mistake here, it can cost you a game even at this early stage.
And that's the whole thing, when you don't have any vision early on, it's just a gamble if you want to invade in. We saw in the last game, Millennium were just waiting, Copenhagen said we want to go towards their blue buff, and boom, there's Millennium. We give up first spot. So it's always a gamble now when you have no vision, unless the support decides to start a ward early on, but we haven't seen it yet.
So we have our admins in there, and our Gambit fans as well, getting the chance to
I like
go
the
in
sign
here in
here
the studio.
saying Genja and is pointing in the Gambit logo.
Absolutely awesome stuff to see. Don't forget you guys can get involved as well. If you head over to lolesports.com, click the tickets link. If you want to come down to the studio and watch these games live. Right now, Freddy just talking to the admins there, so hopefully this pause shall be remedied here in just a few moments and we can get things back underway. But if you take a look, we're only 4 minutes in, very, very early doors in this. It's even, surprisingly enough, after 4 minutes.
One thing we do see, however, is actually Alex doing a very good job early on against this Leblanc with Jesiz, and generally picking Orianna into Leblanc, I like it because you can have a few ranks in your shield if you want to play very passive, and then you can just focus on farming away. If Leblanc jumps towards you, you shield yourself, of course. He's having the cleanse if he should be chained or feared by Svenskeren in a gank. So he's just going to farm away, focus on not trying to kill Jesiz, but just force him out of the lane, or at least lose on CS.
And again, we saw in the last time that these two teams met, Leblanc versus Zed was actually the first time that we've seen Jesiz really go in the assassin route. He's going to do it again here against Aleksei, who played a 9-3-5 Leblanc in that last encounter between these two teams. I'm interested to see how Jesiz does.
And the thing I actually dislike about Jesiz when it comes to playing assassins is not his laning phase. His early game and laning phase is good. It's when it comes to team fights. His Leblancs in the past, the 2 games he played, he would actually get a few kills early on, but then in team fights, he would just try and kill either the support or he would try and kill the tank. He would never actually really find the right targets. It meant that teamfight-wise, SK would be weaker because he didn't pick the right targets. That's what we need to see in this game. If he's been fixing it, is he going to go towards someone like Genja or someone like Alex and just try and destroy them instantly?
Well, here we are, back in game, SK versus Gambit. Svenskeren did manage to steal himself the big Wraith there, I do believe, with his smite, and he's now headed towards the top lane. There is a ward in that tri-bush, so Darien shouldn't be getting caught out.
And they need to be careful if Diamond gets onto Svenskeren here.
Oh, dive in there, but Svenskeren using the flash. He saw Diamond coming out of the Gambit jungle, and Diamond sticks a ward down in that river there and says, you better be careful, because I'm going to be in the right place at the right time here today.
And with the flash gone, Svenskeren, he has more or less to run in your face and just fear you. That's his ganking potential before level 6. Let's see Diamond here if you want to fight or if you want to back off. The red buff is gone for him. Svenskeren still having his red buff.
Chasing down onto him there. Diamond actually going to be chased out of the Baron pit here. Is he going to be forced to flash? Yes, he is.
Yeah, and look at the movement from Freddy. That's why Diamond didn't want to fight, because Freddy, he had already pushed Darien all the way up to the turret, so he would be able to come down and help Svenskeren. So Diamond simply felt, I have to just back off.
Oh, bit of damage being exchanged down bottom. The knock not quite landing there out of nRated, but let's manage to land his Q, getting that slow off on towards Eduard. CandyPanda going to face off 1 versus 1 as Eduard flashes in. He's landed the hook, goes through for the play as well, but CandyPanda throws down the jumpers. That locks them up, but Eduard picks up first blood. Can nRated turn this one around? He gets the slow and the knock up onto Genja, but he's not got the damage to finish off.
Fantastic flash hook from Eduard here. So CandyPanda actually tried to flash away, but still, he just got caught by the hook from Eduard, pulled him in, first blood Gambit. Beautiful play by him, and he's fresh against Millennium last week was fantastic. If he can do the same thing here, SK Gaming are in trouble.
And we mentioned in the pre-game, something that Gambit have done or have had a bad time with is giving up first blood, specifically down in that bottom lane. Be a refreshing change for them almost to be doing that themselves this time around. That puts them close to 1,000 gold in the lead of this one. If you look in the top lane, Darien is taking a bit of damage from this. Obviously has his blood well, even if things really go badly for him. Crucially, he's keeping up in terms of farm.
Yeah, fantastic play by Darien actually. Going even in farm against Renekton. Renekton is supposed to bully this lane, win it early on. Of course, the fact that Diamond spotted out, or the ward spotted out Svenskeren before, meant there was no pressure onto Darien. He could just farm away under the turret. He's been doing a fantastic job so far. Getting level 6 now, so he's gonna be able to at least respond if Freddy tries to dive him here. So we need to see if Freddy just want to farm away, or he actually really want to try and push the advantage he should be having as Renekton.
Well, this mid lane, we see that the command protect being used often by Alex, who has a solid lead at this stage with this last minion. If Jesiz lands it, which he does, it's a 10 CS lead exactly.
And again, with early chalice from Alex, he's having some magic resistance, and then of course the shield, Jesiz is not having the damage to kill him. He's also going for chalice, so he want to go with Fiends, not DFG as the first item, so he simply is not having the damage to deal with Alex, and that's why he can just farm away.
Very interesting game down on this bottom side as well. Level 5 for CandyPanda as the hook comes out, does land, but onto a minion. Not really the target that they were looking for from that, but some good damage back nonetheless. Meanwhile, the mid laners here, or at least Aleksei hitting level 7, and Jesiz going pretty deep with that one. Did use his ultimate, didn't quite get the damage in there that he was looking for though.
And Alex is just going to stay in the lane, popping his health potion, so he's going to sustain some of the health back and just continue farming. Jesiz is going to get this blue buff here. You could give it to the Fiddlesticks, of course, for the earlier level 6, but the Svenskeren have to give it over to Jesiz. He needs it for this lane. And down in the bot lane, we need to see again if SK, once they push up the lane actually to Gambit's side, how much poke they can put onto them. We saw it before, but for now, nRated is only level 4 till level 5 of Eduard here, so they are having some issues.
Actually backing away, and we saw the pings coming down there for Gambit. Nothing that they can really do about this one to stop it happening. In fact, you can see that Diamond is on the top side, or on the bottom side, but on the top side of the bottom side of Gambit's jungle, doing his wolves, and then we'll be doing the blue, which will of course go over to Aleksei on Orianna in this mid lane.
And Svenskeren got his level 6 now. Flash is almost ready, so he's gonna be at the point where warding against Fiddlesticks is becoming so hard because you can just jump over the walls here from a long distance away. So let's see if you want to set anything up. He could potentially dive onto the top lane or try kill onto Alex, even though there's a cleanse.
Here is Svenskeren waiting. He's level 6 now. Will he dive on towards Alex from this one? Actually, Diamond is not too far away. He's currently doing his Wraith camp as a hook comes out. Actually will land on towards nRated. Box goes down. nRated taking a lot of damage from the cliff. Genja's going to go under the tower. Flashes away as well. CandyPanda not level 6, so he's not got the execute here. And Gambit pick up a second kill in the bottom lane.
And the big issue for Vel'Koz, lack of mobility. As soon as Eduard lands the hook, he's just forced to flash away, but he got so low that Genja could actually pick up the kill. And I love the way they're playing this bottom lane for Gambit here. Really punishing SK for this Vel'Koz pick.
That's part of the problem that I guess a lot of people saw in this one. Yes, you've got some good points and some reasons why you would use Vel'Koz, but risky. He's not mobile whatsoever, and as soon as your flash is down, you're open, especially against someone like Thresh. If you land that hook and everything goes following into it, you're in some real trouble. Svenskeren's actually come into this bottom lane to try and turn things around.
They need to turn this one around. They need to get a kill onto CandyPanda. They need to get a kill onto someone like nRated as well, because he's also falling behind. Eduard should be able to get the Sidestone when he goes back here. So issues for SK Gaming, and teamfight-wise, we really need to see perfect positioning for both CandyPanda and nRated. Otherwise, this Zhao and this Aatrox is going to be right in their face.
There's Alex, he's done this constantly here. Head back towards the Wraith camp. Make sure he can pick those up just to add to his CS total and try and keep that domination up over Jesiz. 109 to 78 CS on that front. However, bottom lane has gone back here for Gambit. Looks like SK are moving towards it.
But the remaining members of Gambit are close by. Diamond already showing in the mid lane here, so SK wisely backing off from the Dragon. They know he's nearby. Jesiz actually going in.
A lot of damage as well, and Svenskeren goes on top of him. Shockwave can't pull Svenskeren off as the drain comes in as well. Svenskeren didn't quite get over towards Aleksei, but that's the first kill of the game back for SK.
And that's the power of Fiddlesticks, and of course Jesiz setting everything up here. They spotted Diamond in the mid lane, got the chains onto him, jumped him, got him very, very low, and then Svenskeren just popped him with his ultimate, and they even got the ultimate away from Alex here.
So Svenskeren's headed towards top now. Will he be able to finish off Darien? He's got Bloodwell. Your immediate answer to that one would probably be no, especially with the fact that his ultimate is down. In fact, Darien is coming around here. He's going to have good damage as he does get feared. What's his next move? It's a flash over the top. Bloodwell is going to be popped. Can they actually lock him up from this one? Darien going very low. Jumps over though into the Baron pit. He's on a run once again. How many times have we seen Darien on the run? How far is he going to go? He's drawing SK in. Gambit are moving towards the Dragon, and Darien continues. But here comes Jesiz. Is he going to be able to get away? No, he's not. Jesiz gets the kill. Diamond and the rest of Gambit get the Dragon.
Time and time again we see this. Darien, they go into him, and now onto CandyPanda.
On towards Eduard here as well. Can they take him down? Lifeform Disintegration Ray coming out, but he's at close range. It's hard to hit. Well, they've got the damage. CandyPanda gets the kill.
So Eduard, he landed the hook, but he didn't land on back towards the Dragon Pit, so nobody followed over with him, and he just ended up giving a free kill to SK. And with Darien, the fact he pulled up 3 members towards the top side meant there was a Dragon for Gambit. It meant it was worth it for Gambit to pick up the Dragon, even though they lost Darien here. So good move by him. And SK, just look here, early aggression onto this Fiddlestick. Triple Dorian's ring, and also Magic Pen boots already. So Svenskeren, he wants to make sure in the early fights he can do a lot. And it's gonna delay his Sonya's though. That's one thing we need to remember. And Sonya's for him in teamfights is gonna be a key item.
Speaking of items, let's look at the AD carries here, because CandyPanda been pretty much forced into a pickaxe at this point, falling in there behind, needs some damage right now, can't afford to wait for the BF sword that we already see with Genja. How's that going to set him back in that lane?
Well, again, it's gonna mean for him at least, when it comes to the early fights with pickaxe, yes, he's gonna have the extra damage. The whole laning setup is meant to be, we catch someone out with our knock-up, and then we just burst them down with both Jinx and Vel'Koz ultimate. That's why he wanted the early pickaxe. It's gonna delay though. If he decides to go for something like a Bloodthirster, it's gonna be delayed. He can save this pickaxe for when he actually wants the Last Whisper, or he can build it into something like an Infinity Edge.
Well, we see blue buff going over to Jesiz, and Aleksei using that time here to put the damage down. Aleksei getting caught a little bit there by Jesiz, but not really anything to be afraid of for him with that command protect on as Eduard starts to move in. Actually, he's going to take all the poke that CandyPanda and nRated can throw at him, and actually he's going to go through again. This time he gets caught with the jumpers. Have they got enough damage to finish him off? There is a super mega death rocket finisher for CandyPanda. A second kill pretty much just given over there. As Svenskeren going to be caught out by Diamond. There's a shockwave. Diamond goes low to Jesiz, but they're going to force him off. He's got the blue bull, so he's got the cooldown. Gambit, are they going to pick the right target? The dash away. Jesiz just about escapes.
So we see the combo in mid lane we talked about. Diamond jumping onto Svenskeren with the ball from Alex, popping the ultimate. No flash onto Svenskeren here, so it was an easy target for him to kill. Down in the bottom lane, again, we see the reason for the early pickaxe here for CandyPanda, because they know they have enough damage to burst someone down. As soon as they get them low, he pops the ultimate. It's an execute, of course, doing more and more damage the lower they are, so he picks up the kill. And that was without the ultimate for Vel'Koz.
Yeah, he didn't even need it at that point, as this turret now going to be shredded by CandyPanda. He decide to whack off, but WQ combo there coming out from nRated is going to do a fair amount of damage to Genja. Let's have a look at that lane a little bit closer once again. The farm still in the advantage of Genja. Gone for the BF sword, and I hate to say it, we're going to talk about Genja builds now. Defisio, something
Not
you
yet.
don't like
We don't know what he's building
We
yet.
have a BF sword in there at least for now.
Yeah, good start. I like this Genja. I agree with you so far. Let's keep it at that.
Oh, Freddy here going to be diving in on towards Darien. That's a lot of turret damage, and Darien managing to get one back for himself there.
So Freddy actually decided to dive onto Darien without his ultimate. That's why he couldn't tank up the turret, and of course Darien didn't have his passive himself. So just trading 1-for-1, definitely in favor of Darien here. He wants to make sure he can get early kills on early farm as much as possible against Renekton.
Ravenous Hydra is in there for Freddy at this point, so certainly can put quite a lot of damage down as Jesiz starts to move in. He's actually going to scan here inside of that tri-bush and see if he can get rid of that ward. In fact, they're going to go towards Eduard. There's 3 men down there. Genja trying to force them in. That is a brilliant hook. Jesiz now in a lot of trouble. Turret is doing a lot of damage to him as they dive over. They kill nRated. They're going to kill CandyPanda as well. That kill will be given over to Diamond. Jeziz's cloud will be focused. Jesiz does escape, but disastrous for SK.
Eduard is he's a boss. That hook, he predicted the jump from Jesiz, lands it, sets up the entire fight. Ultimate from nRated was used early to try and make them back off, but Gambit just chased for it, picked up the kills, can take the turret now here in the bot lane as well. Beautiful play set up by Eduard.
Set up by Eduard, finished off by the rest of them. If you look down the score, that leaves Genja at 2-0-2. You see Diamond at 2-1-1 now as well. 2 assists for Aleksei. At this point in the game, he's just focused on getting that farm going and not giving any kills over towards Leblanc at this time.
Yeah, again, the whole focus for Alex is just continue farming, getting strong. You want to finish, you want your death cap, you want your void staff, and then once we get to the team fights with both Aatrox and Zhao to get his ball in a good position, he can really land some shockwaves that can simply win the game for Gambit. If he gets it onto Vel'Koz and Jinx in a team fight, they're gonna die instantly.
And in a 1v1 scenario, who actually gets the turret there. Freddy's going in on towards Darien, but he's not thought about Genja, who's coming across here. Dominus is running. Can Freddy get away from it? He actually flashes the slow, and that will make him escape to freedom as Eduard was actually coming down there. Couldn't get in, though.
But Gambit needs to start moving down towards this dragon. It's gonna spawn in 30 seconds, and SK Gaming not in a position yet, but they can get there faster. We actually see Genja now running away from the top lane, want to get to this bot lane, which is left open until Diamond come here to defend it.
Oh, this is a lot of damage going on to Diamond. Are they going to dive this one? Where's the super mega death rocket? Diamond just simply steps off to the side. No ultimate for nRated to keep that one going. And now look at Eddie. He fancies himself for hook. He's going to come towards CandyPanda, who is going to get the slow. There's the knock-up as well. Is he going to land the hook on this one? Alex misses the ball, but there is the hook. Alex picks it up, and now nRated in no man's land. He's trying to damage Eduard, throws down the left, decent array, and anyway they get the kill. He's got such a long name that we don't need it. The rest of SK tried to come down there, but they were just too late.
Just too late, and Eduard coming down behind him. We actually had Genja ganking the top lane first as the AD carry, then he decided to jungle at the Wraith camp. It meant that SK thought they could take the turret down bot, but due to both Alex and Diamond being there, stopping them, and then Eduard rotating all the way down to bot lane, they simply got caught out of position. 2 kills and a dragon for Gambit Gaming. They're looking very, very strong.
I have to ask you a question here, as I will avoid that for a second. Darien just jumping away. The build that we see there for Svenskeren, needlessly large rod, triple Doran's ring, straight out Hydra for Freddy in the top lane. Neither of them going down a tanky route from this one. Could this cost them as Gambit start to get stronger?
Well, the tanky route for Fiddlesticks jungle is going to be the Sonya's, and that's you jumping into the face, people turn around to try and kill you, you pop it, and you delay dying and do a lot of damage to them. But yeah, we talked about the triple Dorans earlier. It's simply for the early game power. Also, if he should find out someone like Diamond, he wants the triple Dorans to be stronger in these 1v1s or 2v2s. The Hydra for Freddy is actually something a little bit weird for me. It's something we see a lot of people do here in Europe, but normally, if you go to Korea, for instance, people just build a Tiamat and then they go full tank from there. So they have the Tiamat for the extra damage and also the pushing power. Freddy, though, decided to just upgrade it completely, and now Shockwave here from Alex.
Yeah, trying to get rid of a bit of that damage. Eduard throws out the hook as well. Meanwhile, Svenskeren and Freddy did come around. This is a 5-man stack for SK Gaming in this mid lane. The turret is down to less than half health. Will they be able to force Gambit away from it, though? Aleksei can pretty much zone them there using that ball.
No shockwave.
Will he have... Yeah, he's not got any shockwave, so he's just trying to get rid of the minions as fast as he possibly can. SK will have to tank it from here. Gambit hold them off for another wave.
Yeah, very nice wave clear from Alex. Genja was not nearby, he was in the base, and now we see SK continue to run as 5. With the combo SK is having, they need vision control. They need to control the river here if they want to catch someone out, because Leblanc, of course, want to find a target. Fiddlesticks want to make sure he can start his ultimate without being interrupted. Now, nRated being caught out.
Being caught out, has to use the flash, and that's your mobility as Vel'Koz. You've got to flash away if you get caught like that. We'll see how that one all goes. Actually, he's gone magic pen boots in there, obviously trying to get more damage out.
Look at the damage onto Freddy.
Yeah.
When you finish your Hydras, instead of just going Tiamat into tankiness, you're going to be very squishy for a while. Even if he goes back now, buys a Giant's build, or buys a Warden's Mail, or goes into Spirit Visage, he's still going to be a very squishy target for Gambit to actually kill in these fights. And with all the damage on their side at the moment, he's going to die very fast.
Well, he actually went in there and did pick himself up that Giant's belt. Also, the cloth armor as well. And a few more men actually going back for some item pickups. CandyPanda getting himself the Bloodthirster there. He's compared that off to a Infinity Edge. First item on the other side for Genja. And a Vamp Scepter that he's got in there.
Yeah, so let's see if Genja this time around decides to build some crit items to supply his Infinity Edge, so he's gonna benefit more from it. But we will see actually what he decides to build. He's having the lifesteal now, so of course he wants to be able to sustain both in the fights and of course also if he should be poked down, go to the main and sustain. And now Darien going on to Freddy here. The rest of Gambit are coming in.
Going very, very aggressive. Darien taking a lot of damage from this one, and Freddy knows he's going to have to stick around. There is the Bloodwell pop. What will Darien do? They get the slowdown onto him. The Flay will keep him away from Darien. Super Mega Death Rocket came in, but it hit Eduard at the back. But here come the rest of SK trying to get in position. It's Svenskeren that goes in first. He threw down the fear, but there's the shockwave. Diamond is now on Svenskeren. Svenskeren has to flash away. The Ray comes through. It doesn't quite finish off Aleksei. Command Protect is enough. 2 kills for for Gambit. SK run away.
Yeah, Svenskeren actually ran into the face of Gambit. He wanted to catch someone out with his spear, but it simply means as Fiddlestick, you can never start your ultimate when people have vision on you, when they're right in front of you. They can stop it. So Gambit just turned around and just went on to him. The rest of SK spotted out Aleksei, but with both Cleanse and Flash, he managed to survive, even though he almost went down. So once again, big win for Gambit. The mid lane turret here, Diamond will be able to defend it. And they're doing so well in their decisions. And again, we just need to see SK. Dragon coming up here in 1 minute and 50 seconds. Can they get some good vision control down so we can actually get an ultimate from Svenskeren into the team fight, into the face of Gambit, and just instant kill someone like Alex or someone like Genja?
They could really do with a good fight at this point, and a dragon as well. If you look at the goal, it's approaching a 6,000 gold lead for Gambit. One thing on the other hand, you know, even if Svenskeren does jump in there, you've got Aleksei who can pull him back with his shockwave, you've got Diamond who can knock him straight away with his ultimate, you've got Eduard who can flay him back as well away from the team, so Svenskeren has to pick the perfect moment to get involved.
Yeah, and also once there's going to be a mid kills onto Eduard's side, he can cleanse the fear, of course, from Svenskeren. If he does decide to fear Genja, we can see Genja even go for a quick Silver Sash to simply avoid this CC Svenskeren brings, and then they can just try and turn around and just instantly kill him when he's actually jumping in.
Once again, we saw that the kills coming in for Gambit in that one were all started off by Darien. Even though it was a 1v1 at the start, SK came up and got involved with things. And this is, we've said it before, a perfect champion for him with that built-in safety of the Bloodwell. Something that Darien he's going to rely on, let's be honest about that one. But Austin does so well with it. This time they saw that SK were coming in, he wisely just jumps away. It's going to be a red buff nonetheless for CandyPanda stolen away.
And this time SK actually tried to do the same as Gambit did before. Svenskeren was running with Freddy up in the top lane, so they wanted Gambit to fight him or go, or have Darien jump towards him and then Svenskeren would join in. But they need to be careful now because they're at the turret up here, but the rest of Gambit are coming in close.
Jesiz forced to move away. There is a jump in by Svenskeren. Darien is going to go down, but look at the damage from the shockwave. The culling comes through as well. Right now it's 2 for 1. Well, there is Diamond on a rampage. Freddy gets hooked in by Eduard. He won't survive this one. A double kill for Genja. Aleksei has been chased by nRated and CandyPanda. We'll see if he can turn this back. There's the slow. Another slow and the Super Mega Death Rocket. The hook just flies by CandyPanda. They start to flash in. They want to finish him off. Good slow out of nRated. CandyPanda's still running from this one. The chompers go down. CandyPanda's going to have to keep going for it. I think Gambit give up the chase here as they realize they get a blue buff.
So there was no passive onto Darien, but he still got the ball from Alex, popped the shockwave, hit 2 people, and Svenskeren without the Sonyas instantly just died. He actually got in here. Notice the fight. Darien here, no passive, he's the target. Svenskeren charges up the ultimate, pumps spear onto Alex, then ball onto Darien, pops it. The thing we talked about in Champions, like the ball delivery system, instantly kills them. And then the rest of Gambit here, Freddy, he's no issue for them to kill at this point. Genja just hammering away on him all the time. And while Alex will actually go down to the very beautiful rocket from CandyPanda here, it's still a one-team fight for Gambit.
Down by Dragon, actually. That one now coming up live. Svenskeren going to get blown to pieces once again. The Dragon did go the way of Gambit, and now they're going to keep pushing. Darien here does get locked up as the Cullen doing tons of damage. The jump over the top. CandyPanda falls, and now nRated. He's got no mana. He's been slowed down. There's no flash available. Actually, there was a flash available. He used it. He didn't really need to use it. He went down anyway, and that's another 3 for 1 and a Dragon for Gambit.
Gambit doing everything correct in this fight, and Svenskeren once again caught out here before the fight even starts. He didn't even have the ultimate, instantly just died. Yes, they managed to pick up a kill themselves with all the damage, but then when Alex joined in for the fight, they could just chase on, get the kills, and now they're starting this Baron. Only Freddy's nearby to try and stop it.
Decisive from Gambit, as we've come to expect them. When they say Baron, they go in there and they'll throw everything that they've got at it. Actually, we see Alex is trying to keep Jesiz zoned away from that one. Freddy here going to get pulled onto by Diamond and Alex. He pops his ultimate, but it will force him away, meaning that he can't challenge whatsoever. Eduard is coming back in after dying in that last team fight, and it's going to be picked up by Gambit. Super Mega Death Rocket was thrown in. Svenskeren does do some damage, but he falls very, very quickly afterwards. There's Jesiz going down. Now the laser coming in. It's strong, but it's just not strong enough, and that will be a double for Alex. Another 3 kills going over to Gambit. This time it's not the Dragon, but the Baron that they pick up with it.
Just like the last team fight here, Gambit picking up the kills, doing everything so well. Eduard, he tanked up the rocket, then he tanked the rest of SK and died, but then remaining members just picked up the kills. Svenskeren got in there, he didn't get to pop his Sonias, didn't actually see if he had it before the fight started, but he's once again for Gambit, he's always the target. Now he's having the Sonias, so let's see once he pops into the face of Gambit, if he pops it, what Gambit decides to do. Will they back off, wait for it to run off, or will they just ignore it and go towards the rest of SK?
Yep, 26-53 that one picked up, so not available in that last fight, but he certainly needs it at this stage as Genja and CandyPanda here are battling over the red buff. This time Svenskeren is hanging around. Genja needs to be careful as they flash in. The fear is going to lock him up. There's the drain. Genja dodges away. Command protect. Seitz sets one. He's going to have to try and escape it. He surely can't. The shutdown comes in for Svenskeren, but Diamond is right in the middle of the pack. Aleksei picks up 1 kill. Svenskeren going to be the next target. He's draining. He does go down without using that Zhonya's hourglass, and now they just wreck through the rest of the team. CandyPanda falls. Another 3 kills for Gambit.
And the mobility for Gambit's lineup, every single team fight we see the same thing. They jump into the face, get the first kill, continue chasing, get the next kill. Zhao for Diamond have been absolutely fantastic. He's been doing everything correct in fights. He's always in the face. They can't kill him. He's too tanky. And at the same time, he's having so much damage. Combine that with the ball from Alex. Every single team fight is the same. He joins in, picks up the first kill, continue chasing, and the low mobility of Jinx, Vel'Koz, Fiddlesticks, they can do anything to get away from him.
And despite Genja going down in that last fight, I'm pleased to announce that he has in fact picked up the Zephyr as his second item here.
So this time around, it actually makes sense in the case he's getting tenacity against the CC from SK, and at the same time the extra movement speed for him means he can play more safe in the team fights. Still, I would like to see just a Quicksilver Sash and then standard route of either Phantom Dancer or the Static Shift just to provide the extra crit for his Infinity Edge to make it do the maximum amount of damage.
Once again, Gambit keep up the pressure here inside of the SK jungle. Diamond getting slowed but taking that Lantern off to safety. Genja here is ripping through the top lane and actually will take the 3rd turret of the game here for Gambit. We're half an hour in and actually quite low in terms of turret kills. There's been a lot of fighting, but not much in terms of pushing down. I don't want to say objectives because you see multiple dragons and a Baron going down, but the towers at least from that one. Right now, we are seeing Genja being pressured a little bit by Freddy, but honestly don't think he's too scared of him.
Yeah, what we have seen is a team from SK side who were thinking to themselves, we need to fight early on. Our combo here, it shines in the mid game, so that's where we want to pick the fights. And then Gambit with their combo scaling so well into the late game, and just because they've been ahead pretty much the entire game, and because they've been playing these team fights so well, they just said, you know what, we're ready to fight, and just turned them around every single time SK tried. There's a lot of times they were actually fighting in the jungle of Gambit, where it's SK who starts it, and then Gambit just turns it around and win.
Once again backing away, they're going to have another blue buff to steal. This time it goes over to Genja. Aleksei there just having a peek around by the base and see what they can get. They've got the top and the bottom inner turret still to take down. Actually, bottom is pushed very heavily, so they're going to have to get down there and deal with that one. Diamond just not really caring that he's taking those turret hits right now. He hardly loses any health whatsoever.
He's so strong. 8 kills, 1 death only, and 8 assists, of course. Already with the Renekton zone, when he should have a lot of gold now when he backs off to buy. So he's gonna be close to impossible for SK to actually kill in these fights, because he will always jump to the backline with the ball from Alex, and if they stay close to try and kill him, shockwave, you're dead.
And Alex himself, 6-1-8. Got a bit of protection now with that Banshee's Veil on as well. 270 to the 195 CS. So overall, just excelling himself. And we've actually, as we were talking about the tankiness of Diamond, he picked himself up a Warmog's armor as well. So he's sat on about 4,000 HP.
Yeah, have fun.
3,629 if we're going to be very precise about that one. And again, he's just stalking through that SK Gaming jungle. And why not, really? I mean, who's he got to be scared of on SK's team?
Well, nobody. He's even having tenacity in case he should be locked up, but he will be able to get out of the fear and just start running away, because again, he is so tanky. And the rest of Gambit, they were nearby to join in, and we have seen in these fights how mobile they are. So whenever they're actually close by, they can join in. Even though one member is dead from Gambit, they just still join the fight and just jump into the face of SK.
4 out of 4 Dragons and 1 out of 1 Barons. It's a massive gold lead here for Gambit. They're about to hit 60,000 gold to the 43.5 that SK have with them. This is going to take a massive, I don't even want to say massive mistake, probably a lot of massive mistakes for SK to get back in this game.
SK needs to try and catch out Gambit either in their own jungle or when Gambit is trying to push up on a turret. If someone like Darien is in the top lane and the 4 members from Gambit are in the mid lane, that's where they need to try to engage with 5 members onto them. Lock up someone like Genja, who's not having the Quicksilver Sash yet. Yes, okay, there's a Mikhail's onto Eduard, but then they just need to try and lock him up for a second or two and then blow him up instantly and then try and win the fight. But still, they have to deal with this front line of Gambit, which is the big issue.
And in typical Gambit fashion, we start to see those Guardian Angels appearing, and that's where, well, it becomes a lot harder. Even if you win one team fight, you still got to kill multiple members multiple times. They've stopped Gambit actually pushing through into that inner turret there in the bottom lane, and we see that they're actually just going to go home. Spend up a little bit more money, actually 3,000 gold for Genja to spend. We'll see what he actually ends up finishing off from this one.
Yeah, so Gambit decided to take it a little bit slow for the last few minutes because they had some key items they wanted on multiple members. We actually see the static shift now onto Genja here, so he's gonna have some crit now to supply the Infinity Edge, but he's gonna have a lot of attack speed as well, and very low amount of attack damage. So when it comes to the straight up hits, if he gets towards the squishy targets from SK, he's still gonna do a lot of damage. But onto someone like Freddy with the Randuins, it's gonna take some time for him to kill him, but Freddy's not really been the issue for Gambit, so he doesn't actually care.
A couple more items coming through as well. Void Staff for Aleksei. The Spirit Visage was finished off just a minute ago there by Darien as well. So more damage coming out, more tankiness in there for the Aatrox, who's not only got his Bloodwell passive, he's got a Guardian Angel, he's got a Giant Spell in there on top of things as well.
Yeah, so with these key items, Void Staff, of course, as you said, the Guardian Angel, and now the Baron buff, this is the time for Gambit to just start pushing down and forcing a team fight. They don't even have to care about the turret, they can just engage. Yep. If they have vision of Svenskeren when they start the fight, they can just jump onto him, force him to Sonya's before he's even using the ultimate, and he will be a non-factor in the fight.
Yeah, and as you rightly pointed out, is he going to be... I mean, Darien can tank the turret. He's got 3 lives, essentially. On the other side, you've got Diamond, who's super tanky. And look at this. They've caught SK completely out of position. One single ball in there. Big shockwave onto 3 of them. Will completely control the SK's position. They do go towards Aleksei, but the damage is just not there from there. Is Svenskeren jumping over, but he's not doing any damage to them whatsoever. Svenskeren does get popped. The rest of the team starts to dive in. Darien getting a big knock-up across the entire team. Jesiz is going to dive to the Ignite. CandyPanda uses his barrier, but falls in the end to Genja, and now it's just Vel'Koz running away. Darien is going to chase him. There's another knock-up. Darien will probably chase him down, but you know, at what point it doesn't matter. nRated needs to get home to try and defend with the laser, but Gambit are just pushing through. Darien's not going to let him recall. Gambit are going to go for the win.
And Gambit was simply too far ahead. We saw the ultimate from Svenskeren do no damage, so Gambit will take this game.
Big win here for Gambit. That puts them top of the table. As we said, top of the table clash, and certainly proved to be exactly the game we were looking for. Lots and lots of action. You see the smile there on Aleksei's face. The Russians, they had a even week last week, but it was the easier of the two games that they won. This is by far the harder of the two games that they have this week against SK Gaming. They've done it. First day, good performance.
And SK played a combo where they had to win the early game in order to actually have enough damage to shut down these tanky members from Gambit's side. So as soon as Gambit went even in the early game and started winning the team fights, it simply went for SK. They had no chance of a comeback. And every single team fight here for Gambit was just spot on. And with Diamond going huge on Zhao, and of course also Darien doing well on Aatrox, the front line combined with the shield from Alex. What are you actually going to do?
Well, nothing. That was pretty much the answer to that one. Interesting. First time that we've seen things out, at least this split for Diamond. We did see him running it a few times last year, of course. 9-1-10 by the end of it. Absolute tanky beast, and you can see happy faces all around. And that's the thing with Diamond. You take away one champion, and he just comes in, picks up another one.
We couldn't even see Skarner maybe if he would pull it up. I'm not sure if he likes it now, but it really showed to me that Elise, for both Svenskeren and Diamond, is definitely not a top pick anymore.
And I have to ask you, Vel'Koz support. You pointed out the weaknesses before we really did see the weaknesses in action. You know, you can't run around even your own jungle there and clear out wards being safe, and especially, you know, if you don't have mobility boots, which maybe give you a bit more time and freedom to do that one, but once you're caught, you don't get away.
What we saw in this game was the reason I don't expect to see it mid lane, at least not more than maybe once, simply because, again, your mobility, you don't have any. It's the same issue for someone like Syndra. She's a very good champion, so much damage, but no mobility, too easy to shut down here. So we saw the same thing for nRated. Did have a okay laning phase. They died at first to the first spot, but then they actually managed to, I think, got 2 kills onto Eduard, onto CandyPanda. So they had a lot of damage. They showed what the combo can do. But outside the laning phase, they were just too easy to simply lock them down. Both of them, we talked about in champs like how Zhao, Aatrox can jump towards your no mobility backline and just blow them up together with Alex.
And that's, you know, something that we focus on as well, the fact that the Gambit bottom lane has been a little bit dodgy when it comes to early game. The fact they've given up a lot of first bloods, but this time around they really controlled that bottom lane. Again, we saw flash hook flays from Eduard, and I think he's to that point as well. The last 2 performances that we've seen him at least is where you got to think, okay, we either first pick Thresh away from them or we ban Thresh out completely.
Yeah, he's been spot on with it. 2 games in a row now, and we talked in the pre-game how he was a player to watch for this match, of course, and in general, because Eduard has been so up and down when he's been playing other champions than Thresh. He had his Karma performance last week was not good at all. But then, whenever he's picking up this Thresh, he's playing so well, and if he can be consistent with it, we see the bot lane from Gambit actually doing really well. Yes, that's some over-aggressive moves, but then again, they were already ahead at this point, and that's what we know from Gambit. They like to push it to the limit.
And speaking of over-aggressive, Darien again in the top lane, drawing multiple members up to him. Actually, 1v1 at the start of things when Freddy got involved, then the rest of SK and the rest of Gambit were there. I think they came out with 3 or 2 kills by the end of that, and I seem to have said it over and over again. 3 kills for Gambit, 3 kills for Gambit, 3 kills for Gambit. It happened 3 or 4 times in a row, and you just can't come back when you're losing every team fight by 2 or 3 men each time.
When you have a combo that needs to win the early game to be able to set up these kills, be able to get the vision control you need with Leblanc, with Fiddlesticks, of course, to catch out targets, once you lose the first team fight, next one is going to be even harder. Lose this one, even harder the next one, again against a combo that's simply better than you in straight-up team fights. And that's why whenever Darien was setting something up in the top lane, the rest of Gambit just ran up there instantly because they knew there would be a fight and they wanted to fight. And as we said during the game, every single team fight from Gambit was just spot on.
Spot on indeed. Great win for them. Let's hear from Gambit's Diamond after that win, which propels his team into first place. He's standing by, so over to Shox and Demon.
Thank you very much, Joe. Demon and I have Gambit's Diamond here with us, as said, after a fantastic game for securing first place for Gambit versus SK. Tell me a little bit about picks and bans, because first time we saw Vel'Koz. How are you guys prepared for that pick?
Vel'Koz support was not really expected to see in a pro scene, but I've seen him before in solo queue from nRated, I think. He was doing great, but in this game, our bot lane just stopped him, just shut him down, and won a lot of stuff from him.
And sticking with the picks and bans, obviously we saw Svenskeren pulling out Fiddlesticks. You went for Zhao. Elise was open, nobody went with it. How do you find the jungle in 4.4?
I was expecting that Svenskeren will play Fiddlesticks because he played like 20 games in a row with him in solo queue. I predicted it, but then I was thinking about what should I pick if three most imbalanced junglers at this moment are going to be banned, and it's Evelyn, Lucian, and Kha'Zix. And I thought maybe I should ask someone else. I asked the Co from Cloud9. He said that Zhao is great. I tried him out, and he was really not that bad. But there was a couple of other champions which I wanted to pick, but I decided to play Zhao, and it was wise.
Didn't fancy the Skarner then?
He is not that great after rework.
So what we heard in the pre-show was that both you guys and SK were very focused on the early game, and then they had some champions that could do very well if they got ahead early game. Did you focus to shut all lanes down at that early game with that Zhao?
I think Zhao is the best late game jungler. Like no one can't have a chance as a jungler against him. He has insane amount of crowd control, tankiness, and so on. So you either want to win early game by his perfect ganks, either you wait for late game and then you shine. So after we didn't do anything in the early game, I thought that, okay, let's wait for the late game and then they will lose.
And now we're coming towards the end of the season. Are we starting to see a more focused Gambit coming out here? Eduard's hooks were landing every time. Everybody seemed on point. You got every dragon, every baron in the game. Is Gambit as a team stepping up now towards the end of the season?
Yeah, now we're starting to focus more on games because they matter more than before. Like only 6 games left and then playoffs. We have no chance to come back, so we're playing like every game like our last game and try harding as hard as we can. So yeah, you will probably see the better Gambit than we was before.
Okay, and how realistic do you think the chances are that you end the season here before playoffs at the top of the table? What do you think of the teams that are trailing behind you, just behind you in the standings right now?
I think it's going to be really close stats at the end of the season. Like, but I see us as the first place. Maybe Fnatic will get close to us as SK, or even guys from Poland will do it as well. I don't like to do such predictions, but I think Gambit is going to be in the top.
And speaking of the top, I know you're a team that pride yourself on international competition performing. That All-Stars place is out there. Is that a nugget that's really driven you guys forward? Are you starting to boot camp maybe towards the playoffs?
We're already bootcamped. Sometimes we have not enough time, I think. Just 3-4 days on bootcamp. But after this week and the next one, when playoffs will come close, we will go to the bootcamp for 10 days, and then we will show real results.
All right, thank you very much, Diamond. It's always very nice to hear from you. It's also always very nice to hear from you guys at home. And at the top of today's show, we asked you to get on Twitter and tell us which European LCS player would you be the most afraid of to compete against and why. And here are some of the players that would have you quaking in your Moby boots. The first tweet is from @LolYamazuya. Should I ever find myself in mid lane versus Froggen, I'd weep quietly and try to learn as much as I can while he dismantles me. Diamond, you guys have been up against Froggen for forever, it seems.
Huh?
You have been up against Froggen a lot. It seems like 3 years already you've been up against them.
Froggen is a great mid laner, one of the best in the Europe at least. And it's really hard to play against him in solo queue, but I think that Vizik is better.
The second one is from @xjohnsen20. Expeke, his experience and clutch plays over the years are one of a kind. I definitely stay under my turret and probably still die. Ha.
Yeah, I mean, Peke's definitely been one of those stronger champions, stronger players. if he's on an assassin. If he's not on an assassin, I could actually fancy myself against him. Oh, I'd obviously lose, but yeah.
Your Ziggs is pretty mean.
It's still not as good as his.
Then the last tweet is from @BunnyDefender. Gotta defend those bunnies. I'd hate to play against Eduard, not just because of his Thresh plays, but because of the surprise picks he brings to the bottom lane.
Maybe I would say. For me personally, I'd have gone with this man. This is the man I'd be afraid of. And Aaron said it himself. He's like, please, Gambit, don't kill me. And you never know where Diamond's going to come out of the bushes.
That's true. I would have nightmares if I had to play against that Zhao for sure. Thank you for all of your terrific answers. And remember to keep tweeting throughout the day to @LOL Esports and use that hashtag LCS. It's time for us to take a quick trip back to base and restock some items. But when we return, the action continues as Roccat and Alliance battle it out in our next match. We'll be back in 3.5.